Hey Rangers, today we're going to be reviewing Season 1 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers from Manga Entertainment. So, let's jump straight into the review.
Hey, this is Austin St. John, Jason, the original Red Ranger. You are listening to Airlim.
We all know about the Power Rangers, 5 teenagers with attitude chosen by Zordon to help save the world against Empress of Evil, Rita Repulsa, and her crew, Goldar, Finster, Babu, and Squat, and later Scorpina. If you didn't know, Rita creates monsters every single week to send down against the Power Rangers to defeat her so she can conquer Earth. The story follows Jason, Billy, Zach, Trini, and Kimberly, and then later on Tommy. Throughout the Power Rangers you see a mixture of American and Japanese footage which pretty much just combine to make and tell a story. Throughout the DVD you see the Rangers do different things either from their hobbies or interests, and it's really nice to see that it's progression. It's not just, oh, here you go, here's the Rangers, you've done it in episode 1, and it's never ever kind of talked about ever again. Jason is into martial arts, Zach is into dancing and develops his own fighting style called hip hop Kido, Kimberly is into gymnastics, Trini is into the environment and helping save it, where Billy is into science, and that creates tech to help the Rangers throughout the entire whole season. Each episode will focus on a different topic, either if it's making friends, how to deal with your fears, how to stand up to bullies, or how to focus on the environment and clean it up. In episode 1, the Rangers get their powers straight away. They find out that they're Power Rangers, they find out about Zordon, they find out about Rita, they also find out about their Zords, that they get the Pterodactyl, Saber-tooth Tiger, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Triceratops, and Mastodon. And then when Tommy joins in, he gets the Dragon Zord later on after Rita's given it to him, and it's therefore when Tommy becomes good, he's able to join the team, and the Zords get a whole new different kind of like combinations. So originally with the 5 Zords you get the Megazord, then you get the Mega Dragon Zord, and then the Ultra Zord. So now we know about a little bit more about the Rangers, let's jump into the review. The series is over 6 discs, roughly hovering around about 3 hours and 20 minutes on each disc. One thing I have noticed is there is no special features whatsoever on the discs, and that to me makes me kind of like, oh, because I would have liked to have seen interviews, I would have liked to have seen certain other things on there that would have been cool. Now on the Blue Ranger disc where they did the Best of Blue, you had a interview with David Yost, and I think this would have been really cool. I think that they could have had interviews with each of the Rangers, or they could have said like what was behind the scenes, little things, stuff that you'd see on other collector sets or any other series, that you'd have something so you can look back and go, oh, I didn't know that, or oh, that would be really cool to see. So now we're going to be talking about the film footage. When watching this, I noticed that the footage was a lot clearer. It wasn't grainy, and obviously it was a lot better from watching it here than it was on TV back then, as well as watching it on other platforms such as Netflix. When it came to like the first episode and watching some of the things, I noticed more mistakes, more editing mistakes, or just things that they hadn't really done properly, or they'd filmed the first episode much later. Stuff like when Billy has his communicator and Jason has the communicator. Like another point is like when Jason and everyone have their morphers, it's facing outwards, but then when they fight the putties and then call for the power morphers to hold up to the sky or something, that it's the other way around, so they have to grab the belt buckle, pull it out, and I found that kind of weird when it came into the editing. It's like, how did no one ever see this? Why wasn't it caught? Why wasn't it continuity kept normally? Now, when watching this, it was very clear. It wasn't like the Dino Charge stuff where it could have been Blu-ray quality. Things have been cleared up and a lot of grain's been taken away, and this really kind of made it for me. You can obviously tell that when they edited Power Rangers, they didn't know how big or amazing it was going to be back then. So seeing the editing mistakes, hopefully no one would notice, and I can see why, because when I was a kid I never noticed anything of this. I was so enthralled. So now going back to it and watching the episodes as I'm older, I can see these mistakes and go, oh, I didn't see that. The editing made me smile. So when watching this, it kind of brought back the feelings of how I wanted to be an editor on Power Rangers and actually just kind of edit footage to make sure that this never happened again. With watching the episodes as well, it made me relive what I experienced when I was a child. And you know, from the Megazord fights where they morphed to the point where the Dragon Zord was called in for the first time, or when it got called in at any point, and it made me excited. It just really kind of brought me back to when I was a kid. I know other shows kind of done that apart from Thundercats. With all the clearing up of the footage, it's made me fall in love with the series once again, and that's something that I like, that I can now rewatch these at any point and just go, I really enjoyed this episode. There are some episodes I didn't like, but there are some episodes I really loved as well, which I'm going to talk about later. But let's talk about the characters and how the writing of the show went. The Rangers themselves were written really well, and when it came to the 90s, you could tell that there's a whole different type of writing style and how the characters were back then to to what they are now. Jason will always be my favourite character in the whole of the Mighty Morphin era, mainly because he was a strong leader type, that he didn't really let anything get him down. And obviously with going through these episodes, I didn't really see the character dip at all. I always found Billy to have the most progression in the series. You had him at the very beginning where he was nerdy and didn't have that much confidence, to the part where he was in Zeo and he had so much confidence that he kind of overflowed, and you saw that progression all the way through. And in Mighty Morphin Season 1 you see this a lot more, kind of not quickly, but you see the progression flowing, and it just felt natural. This progression and growth of Billy, you can see why he becomes a relatable character. I know a lot of people will say that the Red Ranger stood out, but I know a lot of people say, hey, actually Billy, I can relate to Billy a lot more because, you know, I was exactly like that. I did this, I did that. And when they see Billy, that's it, you know, they can relate to him, and that's what I really like in the series. Trini, I think, also had the same progression as Billy. You saw her conquer her fears early on, and especially when she was afraid of heights and when other people would go too high, and you saw that she conquered this fear, that she wanted to kind of make sure it wouldn't kind of hold her back. Then obviously she had the environment, and this is something, again, when I was a kid, I wasn't paying attention to. I was like, oh, okay. But with rewatching this, I could see why she did it, why she wanted to save the environment, and this I really liked. Kimberly at the very beginning of the series annoyed me. To me, she was the cheerleader type, and I think that's one of the characteristics that they wanted, but obviously as time progressed, she changed from that cheerleader type to the point where she was there with her friends, and she would always want to protect the ones that she loved the most. Tommy was one of these characters which, obviously, when he entered the show, boom, you know, he made such an impact, and he is such a big fan favorite, but I didn't really like the way that they utilized him much. When you watch Tommy, and it's kind of weird because a lot of people, when they think of Tommy the Green Ranger, you know, he's the one who came in, he did a lot of damage straight away, but later on you can tell that Saban, they just didn't really care for him, and I think it's due to the footage that they had. There wasn't much interaction at times. Oh, the footage started just kind of dwindling. But when you look at Tommy, he's very forgetful. You know, in the first time, it's like, oh, you know, we need Tommy to come in. Oh, what's he doing? Oh, he's off at practice. He's doing karate. He's doing this. And it's like, oh my God, Tommy's forgotten his communicator. Oh my God, Tommy can't hear the communicator going off. And I think that they kind of brought him in thinking, oh, you know, he's just going to be one of those characters that no one really cares about. He's very similar to Jason. In one of the episodes, they talk about traits of characters where Tommy is really forgetful, and it's like, oh, I've put a drink down. Oh, I forgot it. Oh, it's right there. Or, oh my God, my communicator. And I kind of think that until Tommy becomes the White Ranger, that Saban just really wanted to push him under the rug and go like, yeah, we brought the Green Ranger in. We had to. We don't need him anymore. Bulk and Skull. Now, I really liked Bulk and Skull through some of the season 1 and even through season 2, but we're going to get that in another review later. The characters kind of grew as well. They were meant to be the bully. They were meant to represent everything that happens when you're through high school, apart from like the silly antics most of the time. But they were there to be like, hey, we're the bullies, we're going to do this. But they had a lot of character growth from the point where they were just barging in, where they were comic relief, and to be honest, they were always comic relief. I'm so glad that they're in this for that, because obviously when you have a lot of action, you kind of need that calm, that balance, and that's when Bulk and Skull were. They came in, they'd bring the balance, so it would bring down to make you laugh as a kid. Even though Bulk and Skull got into trouble, they did have a heart of gold, and you can see it slowly progress. One thing I have always wanted to know is, where are the gang? So I think in episode 1 or 2, you see that they have the other people with them, and suddenly they just kind of disappear. Now, I don't know if they become regular students. They're like, oh, I'm not going to be dressed in like punk anymore. I'm just going to go and be a normal student. Or if they got transferred out, if they're somewhere in the school still. You just don't see whatever happened to that gang anymore. So I want to know, if you know, put it down in the comments below. The writing of the episodes wasn't too bad, and it had basic story. It had the elements to get you from A to B. What made it interesting for me was reliving my childhood memories. When watching each episode in order, it showed me why I fell in love with the show, why I adored it as a kid, and why I was so obsessed with it. And I'm really glad that Manga UK are bringing this out, because it's now a time for everyone to live their memories. Now, I know we've got the German box sets, we've got the big Red Ranger helmet, and I know that we've got loads of things like that, but having an official UK release with proper, like, title names and everything like that. I really enjoyed this. I do think this is great for everybody who's into the series or who wants to get into it or wants to show their kids or their friends or anything like that. That is what I would like. You know, this is what manga have done, and this is amazing. When I was watching over some of the episodes, there were some shots that they'd always use. It was the same generic shot all the time that you would see, but at points when I watched some episodes I didn't realize that they actually changed. They actually kind of like not recycled. I think there's a point when the Rangers are calling their Zords, and rather than like a straight shot, it's kind of to the side where they would be talking, and it brought back a whole lot of like, wow, you know, why didn't they use the shot a little bit more? Why didn't they do more things with it rather than just always use the same sort of shots constantly? Some of my favorite episodes were Aye Aye Guy, Doomsday Part 1 2 obviously, and I really like Doomsday Parts 1 and 2 because it showed how the bad guys would be if they put their mind to it, if they like, right, this is what we're gonna do. And having, I think a scary moment is when you're all in the park and suddenly all your friends and family just disappear, and to me that would be quite scary if that suddenly happened. And then also you've got Mighty Morphin Mutants, which I thought would be cool. I just, when Goldar in that episode goes, no one should be the Red Ranger and blah blah, I thought, oh come on Goldar, I'd like to see a Red Ranger, I'd like to see an evil Red Ranger. That would have been cool. And then obviously when you heard Kimberly and Tommy speak again, it was like more gruff voice, more like, and I really thought that was cool. My final thoughts on this are, if you're going to buy this for all the episodes just for listening in the background, if you want to introduce people to the series, then this is definitely worth a buy. You get the entire whole of season 1 on there, and oh my god, it's really nice to actually just watch through them in order, or if you want to pick out slightly random episodes. The quality to me is a lot better than what I've seen anywhere else, and it's really nice to kind of relax to. One thing that I could have said this would have made it perfect is if we had a lot of extras, either from interviews from the cast, even from like the editors or production staff, you know, favorite moments, things that stood out to them. That to me would have made this perfect and one of the best box sets that I would have been able to get my hands on. Now, season 1 is coming out soon. It'll be linked in the description, or if you're just watching this later on, it's already out now. So tell me, Rangers, what's your favorite episode and why? Put it down in the comments down below, and will you be getting this from Manga if you're in the UK? And if you've enjoyed this video, like, favorite, comment and subscribe. Check out all the other videos that we have on the channel, and as always Rangers, thanks for watching and I'll see you in a bit.